What is going on, everybody? Shwazy here, and in today's video, I'm going to be giving you my real-life range experience driving behind the wheel of the Mercedes-Benz AMG EQE SUV. Alright, so we are currently at a charging station charging the AMG EQE SUV, and I thought what better time than to discuss my experience over this past week of driving this vehicle in terms of range and what my thoughts are on what is quoted by Mercedes and what the vehicle tells me itself, and just my general experience at various charging stations. Now, currently I'm at an EV Connect charging station, and the reason I chose this one is because it's said to be able to pump out 115 kilowatt hours of energy versus some of the other ones that are nearby that are only level 2, 6.6 kilowatt, or DC fast chargers but are only 62.5 kilowatt. This level 2 charger that I'm at today is pretty much the fastest in my nearby area at 115 kilowatt hours. Now, in all honesty, range is a very hard figure to determine, and what my range figures have been may not be a true testament of what the range is of this vehicle. It's almost like quoting how much you pay for an insurance policy. There are so many variables that come into play, so take what I say with a grain of salt, because there are so many things that can influence what kind of range you get. For example, whether you live in an area that has a lot of mountains, like we do here in Utah, you're going to have a lot of uphill, downhill, and you're generally not going to recoup as much energy going downhill as you are uphill. Also depends on what climate you are. We live in a pretty cold climate, and so you're going to have a little bit more compromised range because batteries tend to like room temperature more than cold temperature. Do you drive it a lot on the freeway? Do you drive in city traffic? Are you heavy on the accelerator? So I realize that me telling you what I'm getting is not the perfect answer, but it's some answer. And for those of you out there that are considering this vehicle or maybe some other electric vehicle and are trying to figure out what can I realistically get, well, I'm here to tell you my experience. Now, I have this car for a week, and a few days ago, I took it to a charge point station nearby that charged at 62.5 kilowatt hours. And I parked the car exactly at 7 a.m. and plugged it in, and I had 25% charge left in my battery. Now, it took exactly 1 hour and 28 minutes for me to go from 25% to 100%. Now, the battery size of the AMG EQE SUV is about 90.6 kilowatts. But given the fact that when you first plug in the vehicle, it doesn't automatically go to the 62.5 kilowatt hours, it has to slowly progress up to that point. That's why you have a little bit of a longer period than you would expect, and it took about 1 hour and 28 minutes. I will say that the vehicle does tell me on its infotainment screen how much energy at any given point in time is being pumped into the vehicle. And most of the time during that charging session, I was getting anywhere from 60 to 65 kilowatt hours. But if you extrapolate it, assuming you had a 0% battery and getting it up to 100%, it probably would have taken me about 2 hours. Now, after my vehicle was fully charged at 100%, the car's infotainment screen was telling me that I could get a maximum range of 279 miles. Now, keep in mind the EPA rated estimate for this vehicle and what Mercedes provides as the range for this vehicle is 235 miles. Now, since the day that I charged this vehicle up to 100%, I have driven exactly 200.1 miles. Now, to give you a breakdown of what kind of driving habits were going on during that 200-mile stint, it was over 2 days, and I drove approximately 80% on the highway. So that is speeds around 70 to 75 miles per hour for about 80% of that 200-mile trip. Now, in addition, most of the time I was in the comfort driving mode. I did switch it on to Sport Plus a couple times, and I did do a couple hard launches. I would say about 5 hard launches in Sport Plus mode during that entire 200-leg journey. In addition, most of the time I had it on strong regen mode. And I didn't do this to conserve range. I honestly did this because I prefer using the one-pedal driving over the carbon ceramic brakes in this vehicle, which I feel like at times are way too sensitive or not sensitive enough. And so I've gotten used to using the one-pedal drive mode, and for that reason, I just kept it in strong regen mode. Now, I don't know if that makes a dramatic difference in terms of range. Obviously, with regen mode, you're going to have more power going back into the battery, but we're probably talking just a few percent over the entire 200 miles. In addition, I used heated and ventilated seats and my climate control settings just as I would in any vehicle, any internal combustion car. I did not try to conserve it to get better range or anything like that. there's actually an eco mode within your climate controls, and I never had that activated. I always had it however I wanted it. That is exactly the temperature I set it to. Now, one thing to point out about the AMG version of the EQE is there is no type of eco driving mode. There was an eco driving mode in the EQE 500 I reviewed a few months ago, and I felt that it made a difference to the accelerator. It would almost add a little bit of resistance. It wasn't as quick to respond. It was meant to conserve energy. And I get this is the AMG version, like what does it even matter? But it would be nice to have an eco mode in this vehicle that if you do take it on a road trip and you're not planning on gunning it, then you might as well throw it into eco mode and get a little bit more juice out of one single charge. But I digress. In terms of temperatures here, we're right now sitting around 61 degrees, but in the mornings, it's in the low to mid 30 degrees. And overnight, this vehicle is sitting outside. Now, you guys may be wondering, how much charge have I lost overnight? And I've taken a look at this over the last few nights of this vehicle just sitting out there, where when I come out in the morning, there's frost buildup on the windshield. I mean, it gets that cold. So in the mornings, I notice that I lose maximum 1 to 2%. It really isn't a significant loss overnight, and it surprised me because I thought it was going to be a little bit more than that. But based on what the computer is showing me in terms of percentages, it's really not significant. The other thing I want to point out that's particular to my experience is the fact that I make online automotive YouTube videos and reviews. And because of that, there are times where I am just sitting in this vehicle, either doing some research and figuring out how certain features work, or simply filming videos. And the climate control might be on because it's either incredibly hot or really cold in the mornings. I sometimes have the ventilated seat or the heated seat on. I also have the infotainment screen running. And even though I don't think sitting inside the vehicle is really going to cut your range down a lot, it does add up. And over the past couple days, I've been sitting in this vehicle for probably a couple hours at a time with the accessory unit on, but me not going anywhere. So take what I say today with a 1 or 2% margin of error and apply that to your situation, because it's probably going to be a little bit better. So let's put all of this together. What does this all mean, and what kind of range did I actually get? Well, after charging this vehicle to 100% and driving it for the 200.1 miles, when I parked at this charging station and plugged it in, I was sitting at exactly 10% charge. So if you take 200.1 miles, divide that by 0.90 or 90%, you get an estimated range of 222.33 miles, which is incredibly close to the 235 miles that Mercedes and the EPA quotes. Now, had I not sat in the car with the accessory unit on while I was filming videos, that may have added an extra 5 to 10 miles of range, which would put us almost exactly at the EPA estimate of 235 miles. So what does that mean? Well, that means that the EPA and Mercedes is right. 235 miles is actually relatively accurate, within 95% of what I actually got in the last few days of driving this vehicle. Now, obviously, in order to give you even better figures, I would have to test this again and again over the course of 1 month, 6 months, 12 months, and report back to you what my experience has been in various different conditions. Unfortunately, I only have this vehicle for a week, and for that reason, I wanted to make this video for those of you that are wondering and maybe can't find a video about this specific vehicle to know exactly how far you can go. And my ultimate opinion is I'm okay with that number. Now, ideally, I would have loved to have 300 miles of range in this vehicle. I think 300 is kind of the sweet spot because that's about the same as you can get in an internal combustion engine. Yes, you have to plug in the car and wait longer, but at least you can go about the same range. You kind of mentally know 300 miles is capable in any car, and so you might as well have that in an electric vehicle. Unfortunately, it's not anywhere near 300 miles, but there's also not very many internal combustion engines that can go 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds and give you the kind of thrill and exhilaration that you get in the EQE SUV. For me, I'm okay with the number because at least I know what to expect. The thing I hate most is when some manufacturers quote 300, 350 miles, and then you actually drive it and you actually listen to people who have driven the vehicle and they're getting somewhere around 200 to 250. That is where I draw the line, because you buy a vehicle partially because you know what range it's going to go. And when a manufacturer lies to you and you don't get that range, that can impact your buying decision. That may have been a bad choice to make, but you took the information you had and you made that decision. And unfortunately, you were lied to. In this case, Mercedes hasn't lied to us, even though the system tells me, yes, I can get 270 something miles. Realistically, I only got 222. I am still okay with that because the website tells me 235 miles of range. Now, in regards to my experience charging this vehicle and just charging electric vehicles in general, I've had a handful on my channel that I've had to actually go and charge at various stations. Most of them, if not all of them, have worked immediately as I plug the vehicle in. Even this one that I plugged into today, I've never been before, and I was a little skeptical because I was already hitting 10%, and I'm worried there's not very many chargers nearby. Is this going to work? And for a second there, I saw it flashing orange. I was worried it's not going to actually activate, but within about 10-15 seconds, it turned on, and it's currently charging. And the same thing has occurred at other charging stations as well. Now, there's not very many DC fast chargers above 100 kilowatt hours within my near vicinity. And that is kind of an issue if you are traveling, because you're gonna wanna have those over 100 kilowatt chargers, because that's what's gonna make it charge a lot quicker. That's how you'll be able to go from that 10 to 80% in just 32 minutes that Mercedes quotes you can do at a 175 kilowatt charger. But there's really not very many around. The other thing I'll point out is I'm right now sitting at a charger that's supposed to be pumping out 115 kilowatt hours of energy, and according to my vehicle, it's only pushing out 42 kilowatts. That's quite a big difference, and there's no other vehicle plugged in. There's just 2 parking spots, and I'm using the only charger here, and yet it's only shooting out 42 kilowatts. That's really not that much, and according to this, it's gonna take 1 hour and 38 minutes for me to get to a full charge. That's slower than the 62.5 that I was getting yesterday, more reliably at a charge point station. And that's ultimately the big issue that people are facing with a lot of these chargers. You're not sure how much it's gonna shoot out, you're not sure if it's even gonna work, and you're not sure how long you're gonna be sitting there. But if you're charging your vehicle at home and just driving about 200-300 miles a day, you're gonna be just fine, because overnight you're gonna be able to charge this up to that 80% recommended level so that you don't degrade the battery. Also, starting in 2024, Mercedes is gonna be offering an adapter that you can plug into your EQE, and then you can actually go to a Tesla supercharger station and plug in there. And then starting in 2025, the charging standard is changing, so that plug is actually gonna be the exact same one as the Tesla, which opens the door to directly go to a supercharger station and plug in. And those are generally more reliable and quicker at charging. And so that should make the transition a little bit easier, and you may not be stuck in a situation where you're at a DC fast charger, but it's shooting out power closer to a level 2 charger. Well, there you have it, folks. I hope you found this video helpful. Obviously, I would have loved to do a more long-term test, but I just don't have the vehicle long enough, but I still wanted to provide you this information. If you did enjoy it, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for all of the weekly car videos. Also, check me out on all the social media at Schwazy_. And as always, everybody, I hope you stay Schwazy, stay healthy, have a wonderful day. I might be here for a little while.